What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Strength Coach Rants. I'm your host, Connor Lyons, and today we're going to talk about the box squat.
I don't want to hear you, 'cause you cannot master the strength.
All right, so today we're going to talk about the box squat, and this is quite possibly the most butchered movement in the gym. I see it from strength coaches, personal trainers, athletes, Gen Pop, you name it. 90% of people are doing this movement wrong, and I just wanted to do a little tutorial today. So this will probably get uploaded to like Spotify and Apple podcasts. If you're somebody who's listening, this might not make a lot of sense to you because there's going to be a lot of video in this today, but there's still some good information. So just hang tight. So within this field, again, box squats are something that they're incredibly beneficial, right? Louis Simmons kind of popularized them, and then they've just been bastardized and completely screwed up ever since. I'm somewhat of a purist. I think the box squat is not a squat pattern at all. This is a hinge pattern, more akin to a good morning or a deadlift. And in fact, when I program them, it is our hinge movement, right? So the hex bar deadlift would be a squat pattern. It really is a bottom-loaded squat pattern, whereas the box squat is going to be more of a hinge pattern. You could think of it a lot more like a good morning with a little bit more of a push into the ground. But that's how it breaks down. Because it's not a squat pattern, there's no real positive shin angle, or there shouldn't be. We're looking for a perpendicular shin. We're looking to reach really far back. We want like an ungodly wide stance. Think of like the sumo deadlifters. That's kind of the space that we want to be in, and it just so happens to be top loaded. So we're going to go over today some of the ways that it's being taught, some of the more popular videos on YouTube. When you type in box squat, there's some of the first ones to pop up, and they are just absolutely brutal. I'm hoping that this will catch fire enough to get people to understand what this movement really should look like. So we'll hop into that now. I usually steal videos and download them and then upload them, and it makes it easier to thumb through. But the ways that I steal videos are they're not working today. So we are going to just open up a browser, and we're going to go through some of the first box squat tutorials that pop up. All right, so this first one is here. Who is this? This is Buff Dudes Workouts. They have over 500,000 subscribers, and this video only got like 5,000 views. Maybe they bought a lot of subscribers. Who knows? But we'll hop into this now. We're going to go over why it's wrong and what needs to be corrected. We got about 3 or 4 videos that we're going to do, and then I actually found like a really good one, and we're going to go over that, and then I will break down how I coach and do the movement myself. So this first one here, like I said, Buff Dudes Workout. This is called Box Squats Exercise Tutorial, an amazing beginner squat exercise. And I want to preface this with the fact that it is not an amazing beginner squat exercise.
Exercise that has many benefits over the traditional squat due to its beginner-friendly nature. Box squats help work on tempo control, proper positioning, and easily gives you a choice of what range of motion you want to work in by choosing different box heights. If you like this tutorial and want more, you can find it in our programs that we sell at buffdudes.us. How to perform. Place a box in a power rack that is a height you feel comfortable with. We're choosing a smaller box that will bring our thighs parallel with the floor for a larger range of motion. Place the bar in your mid-trap area and then unrack the bar. Take a shoulder width stance or...
So this part's actually like a good advice. I don't see nearly enough coaches kind of demoing and teaching how to adjust the bar. And in my experience, that it starts off bad when it's not done well. So kudos to them for at least that part, I guess.
And your toes placed outward in a comfortable position. Flexing in your hips and knees, slowly squat down, making sure your knees follow the angle of your toes, and gently touch your glutes onto the box. While maintaining tension in your legs, explosively extending your hips and knees to bring yourself up to the top position. Remember, choosing the height of the box.
All right, so this is something I want to kind of address here. You can see how big of a shin angle he has. First off, like his stance isn't nearly wide enough, right? He's not going to be able to sit back far enough. It is impossible to sit back without falling over because the weight or your center of mass, including the bar, is going to be well outside your feet. If you reach back, you just don't have enough space to do so. So we started this off with entirely too narrow of a stance. The shin angle is entirely too positive. One of the biggest benefits of the box squat is the taking away the shear at the knee, and we can't do that unless we're sitting really far back. Now, as like a regular squat, this is a good position. Like I think if he was just squatting, this wouldn't be that bad. But the fact that he's trying to pass it off as a box squat and then teach it as such, it's a little frustrating for me because this is not a box squat at all.
Will determine the difficulty. The lower the box, the more difficult, whereas the higher the box, the easier it will be. Things you do not want to do. Do not squat down onto the box and relax your muscle.
So this is somewhat misleading. You do want to relax the hips when you get onto the box, and we'll go over that later. But he is right in the sense that you don't want to just break form. You want to maintain stiffness and rigidity in your torso. You don't want to break there. But there is like a relaxed component. That's one of the biggest benefits of the box squat versus like a traditional squat.
This will disengage your muscles and increase your chances for injury. Make sure you maintain tension in your legs and core at all times.
That's good advice.
Do not allow your knees to collapse. Letting your knees collapse inward will decrease the amount of torque in your hip joint and lead to muscle imbalances and injury. Always make sure your knees follow the line of your toes. Do not allow flexion in your back. Flexion in your back is a sign of a weak or inactive core, which can inhibit your squat or lead to injury. Keep your torso rigid and your core tight throughout the exercise. The box squats are an easy and simple squat variation that can be priceless when you're new to squatting. It can also be used as a great tool for handling heavier weight as you progress by being able to strengthen yourself in specific ranges of
movement at the end there. All right, we're going to move on to another one here. This is the Active Life. If I had to guess, this looks more like a physical therapy clinic as opposed to a strength and conditioning facility. But there are some issues with this one as well, and we'll go over that.
Box
this
squat.
has 102,000 views.
Pulling our barbell off the rack, on our back rack. Set up a box just at or right below.
Okay, so box being where it is, like the height of the box is not inconsequential, but it's not super important. You can box squat from various heights as long as you can maintain a good position, right? So you can see with this woman here, I don't know if you can see there's the mouse. It starts off with a very aggressive shin angle, right? The knees are almost out over the toes, and realistically, there should be a vertical to like a negative shin angle. So we're starting off like not in a good position. Again, this is not a bad squat. This just is not a box squat.
I'm going to squat down. Give yourself a moment.
And she walks back because she's too far away from the box. So really, like where she was standing prior, she was in a good position, but she did not sit back far enough. So she's walking back onto the box so she can touch it with that positive shin angle. And that's, again, something we don't really want.
To release tension.
A little bit better. It's a good pause.
Perfect. So these are called box squats.
This is not a box squat. All right, so this is peak strength. This video's got 37,000 views. Let's see what we got. This was awesome, simple, and concise. All kind of praise for it, but we're going to go over why this is also not necessarily the best tutorial here.
My pinky is right here on the knurling.
Again,
roll
addressing
back, make
the
sure
bar
my head is directly
tutorial, very
in the center
important.
of the bar. Make sure my hips
So,
are underneath
props
me.
for
Stand
that.
up, my back is tight, my core is tight. I walk back to the box, put my heels against my
So he's too narrow and he's too close to that box, right? If he were to truly sit back like he should in this movement, he may reach his ass past the box, which would not be a good thing. So you can't set up so close because you're not going to have anywhere to go.
point
But his
out
stance is too narrow
at a
anyway.
minimal 45-degree angle, just because I'm a little tighter than normal people. Tighten the upper back, core tight, squat down, sit to the box.
So this sit to the box, right? You can tell the difference between this and in the first video. He's actually relaxing his hips while keeping like a very rigid torso and tension everywhere else. There's an art to it. It's not super easy to do, but that is
Keep
right.
a good
That's what we want
posture
to do on the box.
And stand straight up.
We'll go over why later.
Keeping that core and upper back engaged the entire time. Common mistakes for box squats. Number one, you get set up, you move your head to a side, the bar is uneven. As you squat, it's gonna make you lean to a
This is, again, like I think there's not enough emphasis placed on addressing the barbell. So I like this. This is important.
side. Common mistake number two, as you're setting up, your heels are against the box, you come down, and as you come down, you
So immediately, and I understand he's teaching this like this is what we want to not do. However, that positive shin angle was there when he was demoing the proper way to do it, right? Again, not something that we want, and we'll go over that in a little bit here.
Back forward and lean forward at the bottom here.
You do want to lean
Always
forward,
keep
but you
good
want
posture.
a rigid spine.
Common mistake
again, there's an
number
art to it.
3. Instead of a nice controlled eccentric movement sitting on the box and coming up, person just squats down as fast as they can and plops on the box. Boom! And this kick.
So we don't want to plop, but there is a ton of value in what we call overspeed eccentrics. That's actually one of the reasons we'll utilize the dynamic effort method. So coming down fast isn't a bad thing, but plopping on the box, you can come down fast and controlled. So he's half right here.
Come forward puts a ton of pressure on your lower back. Make sure you engage that core, keep the upper back. Nice eccentric movement, having the quads engaged. When you're doing box squats for a mobility movement, you want to keep that box right at about 12 inches. Make sure they're maintaining.
So that's really horrible advice because I am 5'6"-ish. 12 inches for me is going to be vastly different for somebody that's like 6'1". So to say it needs to be 12 inches that's probably a bad idea. This guy maybe he's around my height. 12 inches is still pretty damn low, but it should be at or near, above or below parallel, depending on what the overall goals are. If you're trying to like overload and you want like a heavier stimulus, we can go slightly above parallel for a typical athlete. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. In fact, there's just a plethora of data on how beneficial quarter squats can be for athletes. So don't fall into this trap if it has to be at parallel. It can be slightly above or below, depending on what you're going for. If you're like really going on like movement quality and you want to work on some mobility and the box squat is a mobility play for you, which it absolutely can be, then a lower box is going to be a lot more beneficial. If we are trying to create as much tension and as much like force production as possible, then we go slightly above, and there's still like a ton of value. We'll get that depth in other places. We don't necessarily have to have it on the box squat.
Posture and getting good depth. If you're doing it for absolute strength, and say you don't have a box that's about 16 inches, you can put on a plate here, load that bar up, come down, touch that plate, it's a little higher, you can increase the load then.
And that's what he's going over here.
Your purpose for box squatting is mobility. It doesn't matter if you're 6 foot, 6'5". Try and get down on that 12-inch box.
That's horrible advice. You may not have the mobility to do that. So in order to do these exercises, you have to have near the amount of I guess you'd call it the requisite mobility to get there, and you can battle for a little bit more. It should not be something where you're 6'1" and you're like, I got to do the 12-inch box because I got to increase my mobility. That is a poor decision. It has to be just barely outside of your capabilities for you to really be able to do this in a meaningful way. Think of you want to squat 600 pounds, but you only squat 500 pounds. You can't just put 600 pounds on the bar and do it. You've got to get there, right? And that's, what I'm getting at here.
Once you get to that 12-inch box, then you can increase the box height, put on some more load for that absolute strength part of the box squat. 3 reasons to do box squats. 1, mobility. 2, core stability. And 3, leg drive for any kind of acceleration on sprints or just power. If your goal is mobility, you're gonna have about 3 to 5 sets for anywhere from 6 to 10 reps. If your goal is absolute strength, you might do 3 to 6 sets, anywhere from 3 to 5 reps.
So absolute strength at 3 to 5, that would be more strength endurance. You could increase your relative strength or like your base levels of strength from 3 to 5, but absolute, no.
If you want to get stronger and more athletic, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you want a specialized program.
All right, and that's that. This although this Israel has kind of gotten in some trouble lately due to his PhD dissertation, he still has some valuable insights. I think the guy can be a prick sometimes. He seems pretty full of himself, but this is a good breakdown of some of the important things when it comes to the box squat. We got Eddie Hall here.
Okay, amazing. So he's controlling on the way down, which is dope. and he comes to a full stop at the bottom because he's training his body to go from zero momentum all the way into maximum power at the same time, which is great because when you're boxing, you're fighting, you're not always starting from a position of rebound movement. You can't rebound in and then punch. You're wasting.
What he's talking about here is rate of force development, and that is a very big part of the box squat. That is probably like the number one reason as an athlete that you want to incorporate it into your training is rate of force development. We'll go over that in a little bit as well.
A lot of time. You have to be able to punch right away, which means from a dead stop, you have to be able to generate a lot of power. Super important that he's doing that. Another thing that he's doing super well is a maximum intent to move. He could squat 190 kilos, 418 pounds for many, many reps. I can assure you, he's done it in the past. He could do it slowly, but slowly wouldn't build power. And you notice he is coming up real fast, which is a huge part of doing this.
Okay. Yep, and we're finally going to move on to one here. This is Misfit Athletics. This is a pretty good video here. I like the breakdown, the positioning. This was the only one I found that wasn't just absolutely not what we want when we go to box squat.
Gabe here to talk about the box squat today. Very first thing we want to talk about is box height. When Gabe goes, you can actually do it right now, goes ahead and sits down here without the bar, he's right around parallel. What we don't want more than anything is for you guys to be below parallel. We want you to be able to sit back comfortably, get into a position where you don't fall and hit the box. We want you to be able to control it the whole way. If you're a little bit above parallel, that's okay.
Right, and so this is actually really good advice because to go back to the 2 videos ago, to gain mobility, it has to be just outside your capabilities. And if you're not mobile enough to get down to a space, it's because you don't have the strength to do so. So you cannot put it so far out of your capabilities that you're not going to be able to control the weight on the way down. We won't get any stronger that way. So this is good advice. I do like the slightly above parallel box squat when it comes to athletes because I think there's a lot more value in it. But we do, at times, go pretty light, and we use it as a mobility play. So just
get upset if somebody in your gym puts an extra plate on and squats more than you because they're 1 inch higher. It doesn't fucking matter. So go ahead and stand up. Gabe's going to take the bar out of the rack here, and he's going to get into a little bit wider of a stance than he normally would.
Yes.
This right here is going to make it easier for him to get into a better position with the box, but it also makes it imperative that you guys screw your feet into the floor and maintain external rotation. The wider we go, the harder it is to force those knees out into that right position.
Exactly.
So what Gabe's going to do right now is he's going to sit back onto the box, maintaining a vertical shin. It's really important here that he maintains that vertical shin so that we can actually use our posterior chain. I'm going to have him stand up again for us real quick. As he comes down, you'll notice that he's completely under control and that he comes to a dead stop. Now that he's in this position, he can use a touch of momentum to come back up through, but what we don't want is for him to slide forward and have his knees come out in front. It's really important that we retrace our steps. We set down.
That last little bit there, so he was demonstrating what not to do. You'll notice when he comes off the box here,
it's really important.
There's a little bit of a knee drive forward, right? And that you'll typically see that when somebody's not strong enough to do whatever weight is on the bar, their body is trying to gain leverage and will do so by creating a positive shin angle and getting the knees out over the toes. And we don't want that in this movement. There's value in that, but not in this movement.
Steps, we sat down and back, so now we have to stand up back through. And as he goes through a couple of reps for us here, you guys will notice, go ahead and do a couple reps. You'll notice that as he stands up, his knee stays in that same position, and he's using his butt to shoot himself forward and get himself into a better spot.
Which is why this is more of a hinge pattern than it really is here we go. It's more of a hinge pattern than it is necessarily like a squat pattern, right? Because we want that vertical to negative shin angle, and we need it in an effort to utilize our posterior chain. That's the entire purpose of the box squat. It is a glute hamstring exercise, not necessarily a quote-unquote quad dominant or knee dominant exercise. It is much more for the hips, and if you kind of get in there and do it, you'll notice it. I've got a couple videos that I put together of me doing a box squat, and we're going to go over just some positioning here. All right, so that started and I didn't want it to. All right, so if you'll notice, it's kind of hard to tell from this angle, and we'll do like a front and rear angle as well, but I've got a very wide stance. I'm externally rotated at the hip about 45 degrees. So think turn your toes out about 45 degrees, and then you want to maintain what's called a hip, knee, shin, toe, or I guess hip, knee, toe alignment. Kevin Neal and Mike Boyle were real big on this, like probably about 10 years ago, and I feel like it's completely fallen by the wayside. But that's the goal there. All right, first action is going to be, and you can kind of see in this clip here, my butt's already back. I'm going to reach back with my hips as far as I can. Right, so if you look at my shins right now, they are perpendicular to the ground. My knees are out over my ankles here, and I am driving out with my knees as hard as I can. It should feel relatively tight in your hips when you get on this box and when you go to get off the box. It's not a very comfortable position. You can see that bar, right, if you watch it, is mostly straight up and down. When I get on the box and I have that little bit of a relaxation of the hips, there's a little bit of a rock back, not much. My chest still stays down and big, all right, but that bar should pretty much go straight up and down because you are reaching so far back with your hips. Another rep there, and then up. Drive those knees out like so. All right, we'll move on to a back view here. So you can see in this this angle a little bit better. We're in Sorinex racks here. My toes are underneath the rack. So I am 5'6" on a good day, and I've got a very wide stance here. That's where we want to be. It has got to be wide because we have to be able to sit back. All right, my first action is to kind of engage my hips and sit back. And as I do so, I'm driving my knees out as hard as I can. Right, I'm not to the box yet, but I'm a little not over my knee on the right side. Maybe that's an issue I need to fix. But the knees are out. I'm reaching back. My chest stays real big. When I get on the box, there's a little bit of a pause. All right, so you can actually see if you're watching, my calves are like going right now. They're firing. Everything is tight. And when I'm pausing on the box, I am relaxing my hips just slightly so that I can get that kind of relaxation into a very quick firing, creating, or I guess increasing that rate of force development coming off the box. That's the whole purpose of the box, is to let the box feel your weight, give it a little pause, and then explode up out of the hole. Just sit back, knees out, give it that little pause. And that rock is not a rock where I am losing rigidity in my torso. I am staying incredibly tight. It's my hips that are relaxing, and then we turn them on and we get out as hard as we can. That is the rate of force development. That is the going as hard as you can from a standstill, like to go as fast as possible. That's one of the major things that we want to work on in the gym when it comes to most of these athletes. Now, you can see if that box was a little bit lower, this would be a pretty good mobility play. But I would have to have the requisite mobility to be able to get down there to develop that strength, right? Mobility issues are not flexibility issues. Mobility issues are strength issues. You're not strong enough to get into or out of the position, so your body's not going to let you do it. You're going to compensate somewhere to get down to that box. So if we are using this as a mobility play, we have got to make sure that it is just outside our capabilities by like an inch or two, not 12 inches from the ground for a 6-foot plus athlete. It doesn't work that way. And we'll go one more for good measure here. Good. And then we're going to look from the front. It is slightly different here. Again, you can see how wide my feet are. I've got that 45-degree rotation at the feet, and my hips and my knees are going to match that. Your first action here is going to be to unlock your hips and reach your butt back as far as you can. As you do so, you are screwing your feet in the ground and driving your knees out as hard as possible. That little pause, boom, and then up. Little pause, drive up. And believe it or not, you can kind of see it from this angle just a little bit. As I go to stand up, you can see my knees. I am pushing out as hard as I can, but there's a little bit more of a push that comes up. That's what initiates that movement off the box, is knees out. You're spreading the floor with your feet. You're not just pushing down into it. So knees out, big push, and up. All right, so that's what a box squat should look like. It is not using a traditional squat pattern to squat down onto a box. It is not a depth, gauge. We're not meant to like touch and go. We are meant to get on the box, completely relax, overcome that relaxation with maximal force output, and stand up off the box. It is that simple. I guess it's really not that simple. There's a lot of moving pieces in this one. But some of the benefits of the box squat are going to be reduced shear force at the knee. And I will pull up this video one more time just so we can kind of see that. So you look where my knees are at. There is no forward movement of my knee, right? So this is all, my body is rotating about my hips the same way they would be if I was doing a good morning or an RDL or a traditional powered bar deadlift. This is a very hip dominant movement. It takes the knees almost out of the equation. And it's again, like great for that. Now, is there value in having like super knee heavy movements? Yeah, here and there. I still believe that we need to predominantly focus on the posterior chain and have the knee almost like secondary. Just for most athletes, because that's where they're at. But, the knees over toes stuff, I think there's value in that. There's a place for it, but not when it comes to your main movements. When it comes to your main movements, we want to get the hamstrings and the glutes firing as hard as possible. We want to become more powerful and faster and stronger. And that just doesn't happen with like a super positive shin angle. It just doesn't. But look at the knees. They don't move at all. It's just back. I've actually got a negative shin angle there. So we're able to take the shear force out of the knee and extend our lifting life, right? That's a very good thing for even like your average soccer mom in the gym. If we can reduce some of that shear at the knee with the heavier loads, we can get stronger, feel better about ourselves, and then tackle the knees over toes stuff with the accessory movements that are a little bit lighter, like a deficit reverse lunge with an aggressive shin angle. Like that can be something that we're doing with like 20 to 30 pounds. We don't want to do that with the barbell. I just don't find as much value in it, right? When it comes to the depth, right, you want to be somewhere at or above parallel, possibly slightly below. If it's a mobility plane, you've got the requisite mobility and strength to be able to do that. But we do that because we can increase the load pretty drastically when we're in that space, as long as we can stay in a good position. And the athlete, that's going to be where they live. They don't live below parallel. Show me a sport outside of like wrestling where anyone is developing power below parallel. It just doesn't happen. So we can get that strength and that resiliency from a lot of the accessory work that we do, and we can really load this and move the needle in the most positive of directions, right? So I would say with this one, you can use it as like a warm-up movement, as a mobility play, but I would never like say, all right, we're going to do like sub-parallel box squats as our main movement today. I just don't find the value in it, especially when it comes to like your average moderate training age athlete. Again, great mobility play, part of the warm-up, absolutely, but not as a main movement. I don't see the value in it. That was a tangent. We can reduce the shear at the knee. We can also increase rate of force development. That is your body's ability to overcome inertia from a standstill. So when you're on the field of play, you're not always, again, like Israel was saying, coming out of a rebound. Sometimes you are stood still and you've got to go 100 from that standstill. This is going to give you a much more, this is going to increase that capability, I guess we could say, right? So it's called rate of force development, and it's your body's ability to go from 0 to 100 as fast as possible. And pausing on the box, relaxing the hips, overcoming that, and quickly getting off the box are going to increase that rate of force development. I think I had one more thing. So I don't really like this as a reason, but it's a good way to force depth. It gives you, or at least gauge depth. It shows you where you're at. You have to go down to this spot. But again, that's a dangerous game to play when you're talking about the vast majority of even athletes today not having the requisite hip mobility to be able to do these things. So as far as progression goes, you can start somebody out body weight. I would hesitate to say we're going to goblet squat this because it's really hard to sit back with your hips unless it's like a really light dumbbell. Because of the placement of the bar, you're going to want to stay more upright so you don't lose it. So I'm not a big fan of like the goblet box squat, although it has its place and can be used. We usually start off with the barbell. So we will get somebody through like a regular squat progression, learning how to goblet squat. And then we will get into, and all the while doing like sumo squats in the warm up for like weeks on end until we get them, even months on end, until we get them to where like they're in a good enough position to be able to box squat. Then we throw the barbell on. It's 45 pounds. Most kids, if they can goblet squat a 50-pound dumbbell, they can barbell squat without any issues. And then we just a regular progressive overload with the weights. We want to get heavier over time as long as we're in a good position. Now, one thing I will say is this movement, much like the deadlift, it's not easy, but it is easier to complete this movement when out of position, right? So I can change my leverages and let my knees come forward when I put more weight on the bar, and I can get through it. So as a coach, you've got to be really careful when you're progressing this movement, because it might not be that we can put more weight on the bar without this athlete sacrificing position, right? So if I have 135 pounds on the bar and I'm able to sit back and drive my knees out, and we're like, all right, we're going to put 155 on the bar, and all of a sudden they've got an upright position and a positive shin angle, we're not doing what we set out to do anymore. So you've got to have a really good eye for that. You've got to be really on top of your athletes, and they're going to be frustrated because you're not going to let them progress as easily. But once they nail it, they're in it. It's a tough movement to master. It takes a while. And sadly, most kids are box squatting and not really being taught how to do it. So when I get these kids, it is like starting at zero. They will, have a quote unquote 315 box squat, and it's super high. It is with a positive shin angle, too narrow of a stance, almost like a regular, like squat pattern, and we have to break it down to zero. And I've lost clients because of it in the past. But that's just kind of the way it is. All right. I think that's it. I've been wanting to do this episode for a while. I may do a little bit more in depth of a box squat kind of tutorial where I guide you through it. But it's a time thing. So hope everybody learned something. There's in the goodness. I wanted to go over a few things. I'll have all the information like in the video here at the end. Just check down in the box below. Email address. If you have any questions, reach out to me. I'm pretty open book. I try to save some time each day to go over emails that I get from various coaches. We got 3 books for sale, and I will show 2 of them here. One of them's ebook only. It's called Simple Strength. It is an easy read. It's on the Kindle Unlimited, so you can read it for free. But it's the kind of strength progressions that I go through with my athletes. It's super simple. It's super easy. It's called Simple Strength. Give it a read. You get through it in like an hour if you actually try, and you'll be able to absorb all the information. There's a ton of good stuff in there. We've got Total Hockey Training. This is a little bit tougher of a read. It's got a lot of information, especially when it comes to like training age and long-term development model or the ADM, I guess you'd call it, that USA Hockey uses, and all the problems that I see with it. And then we've got the Dynamic Effort Method for athletes. If you're a box squatter, it's a great read. It's all on how I manipulate the methods for my athletes to make them more beneficial for an athlete versus like a power lifter, because we're not just chasing absolute strength, right? We want other qualities as well, like speed, endurance, like power, all that kind of stuff. So give them a read. Goodness, man, I can't even talk right now. Give them a read. Check out the website. I'll put the links in the description in the box below. I guess that's going to be it. Hope everybody learned something, and we'll see you next time.
I don't want to hear you, 'cause you cannot master the